I get a real buzz out of seeing people really enjoy my ice cream. You know, I'm a Jewish mum at heart. Every Jewish mum wants their kids or whoever is around them, family, friends, to enjoy their food. So that's why I love doing sampling, because I just see people's eyes light up and, you know, such intense satisfaction when they try the product. It's very gratifying.
This is The Producers. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Combining her background in applied chemistry with gelato and ice cream training in Australia, Italy and Canada, Roz Kaldor-Aroni from Elato finessed her own formula and developed a patent technique to reduce sugars, remove chemicals and achieve important health star ratings in her ice cream. And it's a flavour bomb too.
So we're a product that's got many features. I mean, our position is that we taste seriously delicious. We've won lots of awards, which no doubt we'll get to talk about. But my mission in creating the product was always to try and make it healthier and better for you. Now, like, ice cream is not necessarily a healthy treat, but there are ways you can make it healthier, and that's been a very, very strong focus of mine, including making it chemical and chemical-free and free of any kind of artificial colours or preservatives. That's the easy part. The harder part is we also have 30% less added sugar, but we don't use sweeteners, and we use a process which I learned when I trained in Canada with the world's leading academic, where we make our product almost lactose-free. And the reason we do that is because lactose-free milk and cream are 3 times sweeter than normal milk and cream. So if we start with sweeter ingredients, we can add less sugar, which is what we do. So we add 30% less than we would otherwise do, simply because our starting ingredients are 3 times sweeter, so we don't need to add as much sugar. But then we're actually missing some solids, because you need a total amount of solids of 35 to 40% solids in ice cream, and then normally fats, sugars and proteins. So we now have less sugar. We're missing something. So we top that up with added soluble fibre and added protein, and that gives us a 3-star health rating. But when you taste the product, you would never know you're eating something better for you. The whole secret sauce of Elato is that we make it incredibly delicious, and you would never know you're eating something that's healthier.
Ice cream has helped form many fond memories for Roz's childhood, so it's hardly surprising she now makes it for a living.
So pretty special, actually. Our grandfather used to regularly take my identical twin sister and I down to Bondi Beach. I grew up in Sydney, and they had a very famous gelato shop down there called Guido's. So we would always get, a gelato with the lot, which was, 7 or 8 multicoloured flavours all piled onto a cone. And so that was a really great treat. We also grew up in the days when Mr. Whippy used to come around. So obviously soft serve was a special memory as well. So between those two, pretty nice, engaging ice cream memories.
It might sound a little strange, but Roz's journey into ice cream production began with her love of maths.
So it all started really at uni. I did science and law and majored in maths and applied chemistry, did some food chemistry because I was interested. I'm a foodie, did nothing with it. Went on and became a lawyer and worked as a commercial manager in Telstra, and really co-founded a not-for-profit, very eclectic beginning. But I was doing a hobby of making ice cream, and my sister and I were exchanging recipes, knew nothing about it. But then my husband bought me a ice cream book which had all maths at the back. And I could not believe that I could combine dessert and maths, two things that I'm very good at. Well, I have a terrible sweet tooth, quite a good sweet palate, and obviously great at maths. Couldn't believe it. And I just said to Benny, this is amazing. I need to know more. And so that's how the journey started, is this complete obsession with the idea of combining maths and dessert. So I started some training in Melbourne at William Angus, which ran a gelato class, both a beginner and intermediate, as they called it. And the more class I did, the more maths I did, which was very exciting for me, and still didn't know enough. So I ended up going to Italy to finish my training at the Carpigiani Gelato University, which was, again, more maths. And I think out of the class of 30, only 3 of us actually understood what was going on, because to be a true artisan gelato maker in Italy, you have to understand the maths. They've got legislation which says you can't call yourself an artisanal gelato maker unless you understand the maths and you do it all from scratch, and it all happens on a spreadsheet. It's a mixture of mathematical formula from physics, as well as proportions, that you have to get the proportions of water, solid, fat, sugar and protein all balanced perfectly in order to make the recipe work. All developed by the Italians, by the way, very, very smart at this stuff. But the good news is, if you work it out and you know how to do it, you can create a recipe on paper that works absolutely perfectly every single time, and better than that, it scales magnificently just by adding zeros to the recipe. Nothing changes.
The food industry was a world away from Roz's comfort zone, but she knew it was an opportunity to create a business that could give back too.
So my journey was, obviously, went to Italy and then discovered, I then bought the textbook on ice cream written by this academic based in Canada, who I then trained with, and realised, surprisingly at the time, that I had trained in the wrong area, because it turned out, which I never really understood until I bought the textbook, that ice cream and gelato are complete opposites. Ice cream is high fat, less sugar. And the fat's important in ice cream because it gives you an incredible mouthfeel and enables you to put air into the product, which helps with that mouthfeel. Gelato, on the other hand, is much higher sugar and much lower fat. And I always wanted to do a healthier product from day one. And so I realised that I didn't want to do gelato. It was just too much sugar, 23 to 28 or 30% sugar in gelato, depending on whether it's sorbet or with dairy, and much lower fat. And we know sugar is the enemy, really, these days, not fat. And you can obviously have good fats as well, and you can actually build good fats into your recipes. So I just thought, that's all wrong. And so I started writing to the author of the textbook. He invited me to his masterclass, which was December 2019, just before COVID. Come back to Australia, start thinking about what the business is going to look like, and then, of course, COVID hit. But having said that, our business, the model that we wanted to do, because my husband and I are very philanthropic and very passionate about giving back. From the very first day that I decided I would move out of my not-for-profit and start doing this as a business, I said to him, this is all about giving back. It's all about leveraging my knowledge and skills to give back, and we need to work out how we're going to do that. And so we settled on what I call the who gives a crap model, which is where you give half, well, that's their model, half the profits you make goes to a not-for-profit for a particular purpose. And so our mission is to use the enjoyment of ice cream to give back to the community. And we settled on gifting to Oz Harvest, who've been amazing. We're not profitable yet, but we're close to that. And so we give 4 cents per tub until we are profitable, because the last thing I wanted to have happen is to start the business, promise to give back money, and then fail and not haven't given back a cent. That would have been devastating for me. So we settled on this idea we would give money all the way through, from day one all the way through until we were profitable. And we're hoping to really support Oz Harvest in a substantial way. But then I also worked out in the meantime that this idea of giving back wasn't just mine. All of our flavour suppliers are also committed to their local communities and giving back to them. So the vanilla comes from Halala it's made in New Zealand, but it's grown in Tonga, and they give back to their local community substantially. The chocolate comes from Solomon Islands, from Solomon's Gold, also very committed to their local community. And the coffee comes from Change Coffee, who's owned by World Vision, and all the profits from them go back to World Vision. And then the fig is the new one, Fig Ripple or Fig Jam, is made in collaboration with a not-for-profit in Melbourne called Sister Works, and they are a work-ready program for asylum seeker women and refugees who've never worked before. So they train them up and put them in their first job. And when they're training, they make stuff, including this incredible fig jam, which you can buy online, by the way. It's really worth purchasing. It's amazing. As soon as I tasted it, I knew I had to have it in ice cream. Then we worked for a year together to develop a ripple that could be put through ice cream. It's not quite like making jam, similar, but it has its own nuances. And so we worked together collaboratively to make that happen. And now that's one of our 4 flavours, including the one that most recently won Best Ice Cream in Australia from Melbourne Royal.
With a goal to be healthier and use less sugar, Roz discovered the answers were all in lactose.
Look, the hard part is the lactose-free because no one is really doing that in Australia. There's a couple of other companies, and interestingly, even Chobani, who now have this amazing no-added sugar yogurt, that's lactose-free, but they won't claim it as lactose-free. It's kind of interesting how they approach their product. So that was the challenge because no one's really doing it, and I needed the help and direction from my Canadian academic to make that happen. But I was pretty committed to doing that, and so we had a few goes that didn't work because it was a new thing that no one had ever done. But we've nailed the process now. It took quite a few goes, but a few trials and testing, and but it's all running very smoothly. But the biggest challenge actually was the fig ripple because the girls use dried fig, which is loaded with seeds, which is a good thing, but the equipment in the factory couldn't handle that number of seeds because they're very densely packed with seeds, and it kept on blocking up and exploding. And they made modifications, a number of different modifications, none of which worked. So in the end, the product that we had to use ultimately has very little seeds in it now because the equipment couldn't handle it. So that was a physical limit, nothing to do with the recipe or production. It was just the physical limit of the pump itself and pushing the ripple into the ice cream. So there are physical limits in what you can do in a factory, and I'm learning slowly but surely. Otherwise, no, the recipes have all worked really well because, they're all done based on maths and it all reproduces brilliantly. Plus, my manufacturer is very experienced at what they do, so they know when there's going to be a problem and, they head it off before it becomes an issue. So, no, the development side's been, apart from the fig, which I've mentioned, has been relatively smooth, and the lactose-free was just a matter of trial and error. We had the guys who supply me with the lactase, which is the enzyme that breaks down the lactose, are very experienced in this area, so they're able to direct and explain, what had to be done when we were having issues and when obviously the lactose wasn't breaking down enough. But we've worked through that process now. Also have a granted patent as well through this whole process because it turns out that really no one is doing nor claiming, and it was quite unique, to combine lactose with added fibre and protein. And there's a number of reasons why that's not so obvious. Lactose-free, I should say, lactose-free with added fibre and protein. So we've got a granted patent, which means that we can stop other people from doing it.
Starting with local grocers, Roz has built the brand and it is now available nationwide.
We started, actually I live in South Bank in Melbourne, and actually once we started producing, we obviously had to have packaging, have that designed, it was actually printed in China and shipped out, and we started making. Once we started making, my first foray was actually in my local stores in South Bank. So 2 of them agreed to take it on, and I was doing direct deliveries to them and also doing sampling there to get feedback on the product. And I'm a big fan of sampling. I've done a lot of it because I just really want to see how people respond to the product real time when I'm standing there with them and I can get their feedback. We've always had amazing feedback, so that's very gratifying. But started with them and then took on some retail advisors because I don't know nothing about food. My background has had nothing to do with food. And they were very helpful in getting me a distributor to get into independent supermarkets, because one of the pathways to taking a product into supermarkets is to build it up in the independent store network, because you're really basically building a brand from scratch. And so we were fortunate we managed to get a national distributor. So we're within 3 months of signing a contract with them, we were already in about 300 stores around the country, which was great. And then that enabled us to, we actually pitched to Woolworths, and they said, look, you're a startup. You're not ready for us yet, but we think you should go and talk to Metro, which they organised for us to do. So we spoke to Metro, and because we were already in the independent supermarkets, that gave them confidence that we knew what we were doing and that we had manufacturing sorted out and supply. So we got a listing at Metro about 4 months after we got our national distribution, which was great. And then, Metro have been sensational. It also helps us really grow the brand, because it turns out that their target market is really very much our target market. It's people who are interested, who are educated, who are interested in eating healthier, and most of the Metro stores are in, more affluent areas, and people who are interested in those kind of food choices. So it was a really good fit, as was the independent supermarkets. So basically we did well in Metro. We leveraged Milk Run, which is their home delivery service, used to be called Metro 60, because ice cream is a very big category for home delivery. And that enabled the product to get out, further and wider. So we did some promotions with them, which were successful. They've been a really good partner. We also give away a lot of vouchers with them, because they've got a system where I can give an Elato voucher away, so that people can buy Elato online if they, get a gift, or in our case, we run lots of competitions. So that's been a fantastic association. And then in addition to all that, we've done lots of promotions within Metro, and we ended up actually winning last year Supplier of the Year for Metro for the very first time they've ever awarded it. So that was very exciting, and that really put us on the map with Woolworths. So subsequent to that, we were then able to pitch to the supermarkets, and we now have a listing, and actually we're rolling out as we speak to 500 supermarkets on the east coast of Australia.
Although she could do almost any flavour combination, Roz has been very tactical about the flavour profiles. So
my retail advisors sat down with me a couple of times. We ran through, I'm capable of doing hundreds of flavours, and I have over the years. And so I just sat down with them and explained, what I thought might taste really good. And it was the vanilla and chocolate were pretty easy to settle on, because obviously they're flavours that are very well known. So we decided that it would be good to start with, quite well known flavours. The coffee they loved, as do many coffee lovers. They love my coffee, which is actually a decaffeinated coffee, but you don't compromise on flavour with me. So we found an exceptional decaf. We get it made as a cold brew, which gives very big complexity and flavour. And it works really well. So they thought the coffee was off the charts. And then, I gave them a few things to try. They really liked the fig, which I'd already started playing with at that point. So it just hadn't been developed yet and needed to be worked on. So we settled on the coffee, vanilla, and chocolate as the first three. I can do crazy out there flavours. At some point we will, but we wanted to build the brand first based on taste and texture, which is everything in ice cream, and build our foundations like that. And also, the market for ice cream is pretty big. You want to try and get to as much of it as you can. If you go in with really weird, crazy flavours, you're not going to be able to attack that market and take those sales. And also in supermarkets, you have to make minimum sale rates. So if you go with crazy nutty flavours, no one's going to buy your product. So, maybe a few foodies, but that's not the market. The market is much wider than that. So you do have to start with very well-known, appealing flavours, and obviously do them incredibly well.
The move into the food industry has posed many challenges, especially being a small business getting up off the ground.
The hours I work are ridiculous because I'm a solopreneur, as they call them. My husband gets very grumpy with me because I'm not always available. Going away on holidays is challenging because I'm always juggling so much. In fact, we actually, for my 60th birthday, we went to the Antarctic this year, which was amazing. It really killed me because I was running 2 time zones. That's South American time zone when you go down there. and then trying to run the business, even though we had internet down there, which was also amazing. It was very challenging. So holidays, but this is the same story of any solopreneur. If you're juggling a business, look, I could easily have someone doing the work with me, but it's all about getting profitable, and they're just the margins and the volumes aren't quite there yet to do that. So I just have to keep running it and doing it until we're in a position where I can take someone on to relieve me a bit. And I would desperately want to be, I'm working in the business and I really want to work on the business. That's your challenge as a solopreneur, is to be able to step back and, be more strategic and, work on direction. And obviously I love product development, and I really just have to squeeze that in between everything else, even though it's my favorite thing. So that would be the goal in the future, is to, take someone on as a, second in charge and, literally run the business so that I can be more strategic and work on the business, as they say.
Although Roz loves the maths behind great ice cream, it's the joy that the product brings that pleases her most.
Oh, I love the fact that I'm making something happen, making something grow from nothing to something. And also, I get a real buzz out of seeing people really enjoy my ice cream. I'm a Jewish mum at heart. Every Jewish mum wants their kids or whoever is around them, family, friends, to enjoy their food. So that's why I love doing sampling, because I just see people's eyes light up. And, such intense satisfaction when they try the product. It's very gratifying. Plus, I'm a scientist at heart, and so I just love the product development side, experimenting, seeing if the spreadsheet's going to work, is it going to fail this time, which it never does. And then when I do have issues, literally working through them, how are we going to solve them? Problem solving is something I really enjoy. So it's a mixture. It's seeing the business grow, tackling problems, finding solutions, dealing with amazing people. I've met some incredible people on my journey, and that's also a joy to work with. All my collaborators, my flavour people, my suppliers, I actually really enjoy working with all of them, and they're also committed to helping me grow and see my success. And, Woolworths have been great like that too, very committed to small business. Met some great people there who've just been so helpful. So it's a range of things. I find it all very exciting and exhilarating, and I love people as well. So for me, the interaction with people is also part of the joy. But for that reason, I would never do retail. That's the other thing, is I like people, but not enough to do retail spook shops. I wanted a scalable business that we could give back, and retail shops is really hard work, not as scalable and not necessarily as profitable either.
Elato is a unique product in the ice cream space and is fast becoming one of Australia's best artisan products. This is The Producers, a Deep in the Weeds production. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we share the stories of producers, farmers, makers and growers, the true lifeblood of the food industry. Follow us on Instagram at Producers Podcast, or email us at producerspodcast@deepintheweeds.com.au.